Hello everybody, I'm Abasu and welcome to my course on communication and network security. This is a very important topic both from a certification point of view if you are going for security certifications like SICM, which is provided by SACA, or CISSP, which is provided by ISC Square, and the other security certifications. And also, if you are trying to secure your enterprise, so it's very important you will look into it. What are the different security components needs to be kept into place, and where they should be placed, and how the communication should be there. So this complete course is about the overview of how we can secure our communication and network. So here what we did, we for in this particular course we have divided into 4 segments, that is secure network models, where we are the different secure models that can be the 7 layers, seven layers there, which can be TCP/IP model. Then second is secure network design, where we'll see there are different components of network that can be switch, firewall, router, wireless, how we need to put it, and where we need to put it, in which scenario it should be used. So all those things. The third is secure network components. What are the different secure network components, what are their use, and how can be optimized, optimum way to use them. The last is the secure communication. Once you have established the complete secure network design it securely, then how the communication can be secured. So we have divided into 4 portions. First is secure networking models. So in this course, in this session, I would say we'll be discussing about this first, that is secure networking model. So let's start with it. So here to understand more about the secure networking models, we'll be referring to the ISO standards 7498. So what it says, this is a standard that defines the open system interconnect, that is OSI model. If you look into ISO 7498, that also specially applies to us because it defines where we can put security into OSI model. Now we don't really use OSI so much in practical every day, but it is very important or a good reference because it allows us to describe in an agreed upon format how communication function works. ISO open source interconnect model is divided into 7 layers, which you can see on the screen. That is application layer, presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and physical layer. And we heard many different ways to try to remember this, such as all people seems to need data processing from top down or from the bottom to up. Plus, please do not take salesperson advice. Let's start with our first layer, that is application layer. Let's say a user writes an email using an email application. That email application can be Outlook, can be Thunder, or there can be any other different application which users can use to write an email. But when they write an email, they are using an application, and now they have the data, the actual content of email that they want to send. So this is where we will now call on application layer. Application layer is going to stick a header onto that email in order to be able to communicate it down to the layers of a stack. It's important to note that the application layer of OSI stack is an interface to the application. In this case, the email application, but it is not the application itself, it's an interface. Why do we need an header? Let's say the center now has used their user's application to write email. They want to send it to a receiver. When they hit the send, they are going to then initiate this communication through these 7 different layers of OSI stack, then across some type of physical media where their data now will come in at a physical layer of the receiver OSI stack and work this way all the ways up that stack as well. All communication go all the way down, then all the way up to the stack. When it's received by an application layer of receiver side, the receiver application layer needs to know what do I do with this. Is it a FTP? Do I need to send it to his STP server? Is it a HTTP? Do I send it to his browser, or is it SMTP? So how this application layer decide where should I send this? So well, how will it know? It knows because the application at the sender side communicates the information needed by its peer by its equal the application layer at a receiver side, and it does that through the header we looked at. It puts a header on these that says, hey, this is an email, so you know what to actually do with it. Then it can be passed to correct user application. We can also encrypt our data. We can do that using the tools such as pretty good privacy or secure multi-purpose internet mail extension, which would means then the content of an email is encrypted or hidden so as it goes across that physical media, everybody would see it's an email because the application header says that it's an email, but they won't be able to read the content. Now one thing to remember always, with with the email you can still read the metadata, who is from, who is it going to, or the subject line, because those are not encrypted. As one thing to remember, that we don't put anything confidential in the email line of an email. Email line means a email subject, but the content of the body of the email is encrypting using this different tools. So this is what we are having as an application layer. We understood this by using an example of if we are sending a email from a sender to receiver, so it got divided into two things. One is the header helps us to understand what it is it a is it an email, is it a website request, is it a FTP request, and this is one thing. And the second is in the header we do have information about who is the sender, who is the receiver, and what is the subject line of that. And we can encrypt our email, but in case of encryption only email body would be encrypted, headers are still not encrypted. So this is what we are having as a first layer, as an application layer. Now let's discuss about the second layer, that is about the presentation layer. We can also tell them as a syntax layer. So we looked at the function of our application layer of our semizer. Now let's look at the next two layers as we continue down the stack, starting with the presentation layer. Presentation layer does things like formatting and comparison. For example, in old days it often would be used to convert ASCII traffic. Today it does a lot of our comparison when we are using comparison decoration. For example, it can convert something which is JPEG. Basically this is a format for any image into a format that can be transmitted, say, in an email. Therefore the presentation layer, when it comes into its changes, needs to send a signal to the presentation layer at the far, says this, hey, there is a JPEG here, you are going to want to convert it back to the correct format, and it does it that by adding a presentation header. So this is our presentation layer do. So we have just taken an example of JPEG, so it can be used for the other type of things as well, like the PDF and the other things. Whatever we want to send it to, let's suppose, over the network, as we have taken the example in a email. So the format needs to be changed, as in it can be sent over the network, but at the receiver end there should be an header. According to that, it can be noted that it originally it was in which format and how it can be converted back to the similar format, so that the receiver can understand the content. The next layer is the session layer. This is also, we can say, the synchronization and send to port. What did this do? The session layer is where we log in. This is a session management. So in the header says we will have things like session ID, and this is where we have commonly used protocol like P2P, tunneling protocol, layer 2 tunneling protocol. There, these were developed so we could take what was a traditional layer 2 traffic, such as point to point protocol or layer 2 forwarding, and now we can channel that over an IP network. So these operates up here at layer 5. So this is basically layer 5. How we are counting the layers? We are counting the layers from the bottom. We'll say physical layer as a first layer, data link layer second layer, network layer third layer, transport fourth, session fifth, presentation sixth, and application layer seventh. But we have started understanding from the top layer, because it would be more easier for us, as we as a user, when we start sending a data. The first thing, we interact with applications. So later on it goes down, become more technical, how it is getting transport uh, to the network. So, and if it as we are talking about a session layer, this is also where we can put more encryption. We can use products such as secure shell 2, which will then encrypt not only the data, but also that the session header on there. And this is also where we can provide more encryption. So we can use products such as shell 2 and all this. Now people observe the physical media could see some information such as session ID, but would not necessarily be able to see when and what type of traffic it was. There is a number of different attacks that happen at these top three layers. So for now we understood what all these layers do. What's this application layer? It's an interface for us. So we write anything in that. Like, as we have taken the example of an email, if we write an email, let's suppose in application Outlook, so it has two parts. First is header. Talks about sender, receiver, and the subject line. Then it's a body, and body can be encrypted as we are transporting. Second is presentation layer. Presentation layer would do it do the formatting and in comparison of the data. Basically, let's suppose if we are trying to send an image through our email, that is JPEG. It will convert it into such a format it can be transported over the network. And it also has two things, a header and the body has the information, like what type of file it's changing, and it which another format, so that when it goes to the receiver and it can be reverted back. The third we understood about the session layer, where we are creating the different sessions, and uh, and and so everybody, it also has a header and body. In the header, we can understand about the session ID, but as a body is moreover like what we are doing here, and nobody knows about it. So this is what we discuss about these three layers. In the next session, we'll be discussing about what are the different type of attack can happen, and also discuss about the others layer. Thank you for joining in this session.